Welcome everyone to episode 43. I'm really excited about this one. How to optimize for low conversion rate, high AOV products. This is a topic that Stephen, you and I have talked about a lot, and I'm excited to share with everyone today.
Absolutely. And first of all, I just want to say welcome back to Mike. He just got back from Prague. He was gone for a little while, and he just got back on Monday. So welcome back to the office. It's good to see you again.
That's right. I was speaking at a conference, and my talk was about PPC automation, which was really cool. Prague is a beautiful storybook of a city ripped out of like a story time. Like all the building and architecture was so beautiful. It was really great being there. Maybe I just didn't see a lot of the different kinds of restaurants. I felt like all of the cuisine was all the same color palette. So like,
it was all the same color?
You know how they tell you to like eat the rainbow? Like you need like orange carrots and like all these different things. Yeah. I feel like all of their food was like a variation of goulash. So like even the carrots were like inside a stew. So I feel like for like several days, all I ate was.
So it was just goulash and other brown.
Goulash in a bread bowl. Yes. I ate, I think the name of it, I actually have to Google it. I want to say, it was a like beef knuckle.
Oh, okay.
It was insane. It was so good.
Wow.
It was like maybe 1.5, maybe I think it might have been like 3 pounds of meat with like.
That sounds amazing.
Yes, it was insane. It was so good, but it was served with like potatoes and bread. And
see, I didn't get lunch today, so you're just making me hungry talking about all this goulash.
Yes,
beef knuckle.
So
wait, so like cows have knuckles?
I still don't understand exactly what I was eating.
Anyways,
we've got a great show for everyone today. And let's actually get into the theme of the show, which by the end of this episode, you're going to know how to optimize a particular type of account with particular types of products. And, you out there may have some of these products, or you might be working on some of these campaigns in the future, or this is going to hit your situation to a T. So let's start by talking about regular bid optimization for a standard product. Maybe the product is under $100. Generally, you would look at your revenue per click, and you'd multiply it by your target ACoS. So if you're generating $100 from 100 clicks, that would be $1 revenue per click every time you get a click. So on average, you're generating $1 of revenue. And then what you would do is say, hey, I want a 33% ACoS. So, you would want to get your clicks for about 33 cents, because if you get 33 cents of cost and $1 of revenue, that's a 33% ACoS over the long run. And then you'd make your updates pretty regularly, daily, weekly, whatever it might be. However, how would you handle these kinds of situations? Stephen, I got some good examples for you. Ready for this?
Okay, hit me.
Let's say you are selling subway tile for kitchens, which is very hot right now. A lot of homes that I walk into have subway tile.
Okay.
As the backsplash. Have you noticed this in Austin?
I'm not sure what subway tile looks like.
Whoa, dude, you got to get on
a subway station, like tile from a subway station.
Yeah, but it's like bright and polished and like.
Okay, is it in your house?
No. Oh. You want to know why? Because you may be selling a subway tile where a single piece is like $10. But you'll end up buying 300 of them at a pop. So even though you're selling an item that's just $10, people normally buy 300 of them. So boom, your average order value is $3,000. And what if you're selling these and a contractor buys them? They're not going to buy just one home's worth of subway tiles at a time. They might buy it for 5 homes. That's like $15,000 per order just from $10 tiles.
Yeah.
We've got some more examples here. Stephen, you found this weird one.
Yeah, so your example is, there's a lot of times where the order and the number of orders and the number of units, there's a big disparity between that. Mm-hmm. So those kind of smaller items, you see that. But then there's other times where it's just a product that never sells, but the one time it does, it's a huge sale.
Right.
Like I saw this 20-foot Christmas tree that comes with over 20,000 LED lights in the tree, and it was selling for like $19,000 on Amazon.
Yeah.
So just imagine trying to advertise that product.
That's right.
What is a good CPC? Mm-hmm. What is the expected conversion rate? Like how often how often do you just like go and buy a $19,000 product on Amazon?
Right. How frequently does that get sold? And imagine, another situation is, let's say that company is selling like a range of Christmas trees, and maybe they have one at $20,000 and $15,000. How do you even organize that in a campaign where the difference from one variation to the next is a matter of, a fifth of what, or a fourth of what it's actually worth?
Yeah.
So it's pretty significant there. Also, another fun fact, you can buy a tiny home on Amazon.
I was looking for one.
That's right. An 11,000 square foot little tiny cabin. This is borderline a cabin, to be honest. It was $47,000. You can buy it on Amazon. So how do you treat these products? How do you actually optimize when there is a high ticket, so basically a high AOV, average order value, but generally a very low conversion rate for these things? So we're going to be getting into this and talking about how to solve it. So let's go a little bit deeper into the problem here. Stephen, let's sort of take a keyword that's advertising a product that could be $3,000. Walk us through a situation where we'd be bumping up against some hard spots here.
Yeah. So one of the biggest, or I guess like one of the, at least the first issue that kind of comes up in this situation is, if we're talking about taking your average revenue per click and multiplying that by your target ACoS to calculate the right bid, well, what if a certain keyword converts on the very first click for $3,000?
Boom, $3,000 revenue per
click.
You
got $3,000 revenue per click. And so if you're targeting, just say 30% ACoS, then, I don't know if I can do that math, 50% ACoS, then you're suddenly, you're going to be having a $1,500 bid.
Right.
Which is assuming a 100% conversion rate for that keyword, that trend's going to continue. Mm-hmm. And that's just, that's not realistic. And so there are a lot of times that CPCs can be expensive. And they can, especially for these really competitive, really expensive products.
Right.
I mean, I have seen accounts that are bidding $10, actually $10, but like the ACoS is good because the sales price is in the thousands.
So like generally the trend that you see is like the more expensive the product, the lower the conversion rate, the more expensive the CPCs are. So it creates this really scary, it's almost like you're trying to jump across a like valley where it's like you need to have, don't have all the information, and you sort of need to like leap to like get to where you need to go, where it's like you don't have as much information as you probably would like. So like in between each conversion, it could be pretty darn scary, where it's like, hey, maybe you converted in your first 10 clicks, you generated $3,000 of revenue from that because it was a high ticket item. But how do you know when the next one is coming? You're potentially going to be spending $10 a click, and what if it's a 1% conversion rate? Mm-hmm. That's one sale every 100 clicks. And if you're going to be spending $10 a click, that's, $1,000 of ad spend before you get a conversion. But if your AOV is through the roof, if it's $5,000, if it's $10,000, if it's $20,000, then spending $1,000 per sale may land you at a totally appropriate, totally reasonable ACoS. This is scary. I'm sweating just thinking about this.
And, one other complication that kind of comes up in addition to that. So, I mean, that's a problem we're going to address. But the other complication for these low converting items is, say it only converts once a quarter. Like, every 3 months, like conversion rates are super low because people are just like slow to buy products that are expensive. But, every 3 months it gets a sale. Mm-hmm. Well, how are you supposed to make those bid calculations when like say a search term report, a keyword targeting report, or a bulk sheet download? All of those only give you up to 60 days of data.
Right.
And so if the conversion happened, 90 days ago, well, now it looks like there was no conversion for this product. So how do you factor that in?
Right. How do you factor that in? How do you even optimize it? Do you do nothing in those 90 days or, in those 60-day time frame? So we're going to be getting into these. So let's jump into how to actually solve the situation where you deal with really high ticket items. You generally have lower conversion rates and higher CPCs. Let's jump in to the solutions. I've been doing PPC optimization for years and years and years now. Situations like this still make me a little bit nervous. So I can only imagine if you're just starting out and you're working with high ticket items that generally have low conversion rates, where there's potentially long strings of a keyword without it converting. It's pretty tough. But definitely have faith that there is a smart approach in it. It's almost like the ninja who gets blindfolded and the sensei says, hey, you need to have faith in yourself in order to do this. We need to have faith in ourselves when we do these things. So let's actually cover up some of these principles. The first begins with an extended time frame. Stephen, walk us through this.
So in general, especially in these situations, the bigger time frame that you have that you're actually looking at, the better it's going to be, the more data you're going to have. Mm-hmm. So if you have a product that only converts a few times a year, looking at a 30-day, 60-day time frame isn't going to be very accurate. You really do want to extend it out. So what I like to do when I'm dealing with these types of accounts is I really like the year-to-date time frame, but keep in mind all of this is within the campaign manager. But I really like the year-to-date. I also use the lifetime. I use those time frames a lot. Of course, year-to-date is only a big time frame if it's later in the year. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I really like to do is within Campaign Manager, you can actually export the data directly from the Campaign Manager. So if you're say you're trying to optimize bids on your keywords for the whole account, you could download a keyword targeting report, but you'd only have up to 60 days of data.
Right.
But what you can do if you actually open up an ad group in one of your campaigns, you'll see all your keyword targets there, and there's an export button over to the right underneath the chart for the ad group. And if you download that, you can actually make your changes from there and then re-upload it to Amazon. That is if you're doing bulk operations. Of course, if you're just operating directly from like the user interface with Campaign Manager, then you just want to be using those bigger time frames.
Right. And, be prepared for some Excel work too. If you're going to want to view your search terms over long periods of time, in our episode on reports, we've talked about how search term data is lost unless you're actively downloading these reports. So one activity that you can do sort of every month or every 2 months, download a search term report and basically start adding it to your old search term reports. So what you'll end up with is a huge Excel sheet. And because search term reports have the dates inside of them, you can actually start to run pivot tables, which will actually help combine the same search term over different timeframes. So let's say you have a keyword that only gets 5 clicks a month. You'll be able to combine that data over several months so that maybe you'll see that over the course of a year, it actually gets 60 clicks and it does have enough data that you can actually make optimizations to. And the reason why that's so important is because if we're looking at, a 2% conversion rate, the difference between just 5 clicks for that particular keyword versus 60 clicks over a particular keyword, you could potentially rake up 2 conversions in that time frame. But if you're only optimizing based off 30 days of time, you're going to look at this and be like, damn, this only has 5 clicks. What a waste of time. Or maybe you download just one search term report over 60 days and it has 10 clicks. And when you're spending, $10, $20 a click, it's possible that you're going to look at it, 10 clicks, 60 days. Oh man, I spent $100 on this. This is a total waste. I'm going to get rid of it. But if you were to extend that time range out, you could see that, hey, over the course of 50 clicks, this one keyword actually generated $3,000 of revenue. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how we need to think about this. We need to extend the time frame out at which we are doing reporting.
Right. And it can also, this strategy can also keep you from pausing anything too early, because I've definitely seen the mistake been made where, there's a certain keyword that spent, $1,000 in the past 30 days and didn't earn a conversion. So we're going to either pause that product completely, pause the ad group, or pause a certain keyword. But if you look at, a longer time frame, like a year to date, you'll see that, it converted a couple of times, and those conversions were big conversions. It was a $10,000 sale.
Right.
And so just keeping that, I guess, that wider perspective, that'll prevent you from pausing a potentially really good ad.
Right. And, we need to think in terms of longer optimization feedback loops. So let's say we had a lower ticket item, $20, and let's say it converts 5 times a day. that's very easy to sort of go in every day and actually see meaningful impact from, Monday versus Wednesday. You make an optimization on Monday, boom, by Thursday, Friday, all of a sudden you can actually see the result. You can reap the fruits of the labor because so many conversions are happening, so much that you're easily able to see that. So many clicks are happening, so many conversions are happening. But all of a sudden, when you get only one conversion every 90 days, it's going to be really difficult for you to actually do something on January 1st and see an impact, January 10th or January 30th. You might have to actually wait months in order to see the impact of an optimization that you made, which all relates back to longer timeframes of analysis here.
Mm-hmm. And the second kind of solution that I would propose, so in the problem section, we talked about how if you get a keyword that converts on the very first click, and it now has an insanely high revenue per click because we're basically anticipating a 100% conversion rate. The way I would kind of guard against that is I would take into account the account averages and actually look at from an account level, for the last 60 days or for year to date, whatever. What is your average conversion rate? So what is you take your total orders, you take your total clicks, and you figure out what's the average conversion rate. If you want to get even more specific, I would say just take that product and figure out what was the average conversion rate for that specific product. And what you want to do now is you basically want to factor that into your revenue per click calculation. And so the way it would kind of work, and I apologize if it gets kind of mathy here, but I think if you're listening to a PPC podcast, you're probably okay.
People are ready.
Yeah,
you're
probably okay with it. You could do total sales divided by total clicks to get your revenue per click. You could also do conversion rate times sales price or average sales price if sometimes it sells multiple units. That'll give you the same figure. The reason why I really like that is because you can just you can basically put a cap. So if you normally say this product has a 1% conversion rate, what you should do to figure out that bid is if you have like a 50% conversion rate because it had 2 clicks, 1 conversion, I would always, when I'm doing my calculations, assume that it's never going to be higher than something like 2% conversion rate. I'm going to assume it's not going to be more than double what my average is for either that product or for the account. So what I would do in that situation is I would do 2% times the sales price. So let's say it's $100 or whatever. Now you have a $2 bid would be $2 revenue per click. And then you can multiply that by your target A cost from there.
Yeah, exactly. So being aware of how it normally behaves is really good. If the account average for these high ticket, low conversion rate businesses, if the average conversion rate is 1% and you have a keyword, out of the gate, maybe it has a 25% conversion rate, you don't want to maybe treat it as if it's going to have a 25% conversion rate forever. And this actually brings us to I guess the sort of the goal of what you're trying to get these accounts to. So the way that I like to think about it is a single keyword for these types of companies, a single product for these types of companies may only get a conversion once a year. So if you have 12 of them, maybe you get 1 conversion a month, and that each of those conversions is $25,000 or something like that. The goal of this whole optimization process is to try to get 100 of them, try to get 1,000 of them, just basically increase the amount of individual hits that you can get. And that's what we're aiming for as like the end result of these high ticket, low converting rate campaigns, just to sort of have a super duper long list. If we have 100 different converting keywords or converting ASINs, how do we get to 150? How do we get to 200? Where's the next batch of the items that are going to convert once every so often? And how do we really go about doing that, Stephen?
Well, you've heard us say before about the RPSB process,
right?
But the best way to kind of just find keywords to add to your portfolio is, I think, through search term reports, taking everything from those auto campaigns and broad match keywords, anything that's earned you a conversion, start targeting that. One reason why I do like that method versus just using like a normal research tool where you just type in the ASIN and it just generates a list.
The keyword dump strategy.
Keyword dump, you get a bunch of random keywords that aren't always relevant. I like to have something that has a proven history of earning me a conversion. But yeah, just taking those keywords that have converted for you, even building out variations of those keywords that are still within the same idea. And yeah, like I said, if you could have, like 1,000 different keywords that are like, say, exact match keywords, so you're not going to risk running into so you have 1,000 relevant keywords, all exact matches. There's no risk of getting long tail, irrelevant searches, and just setting them all at a super low bid. And so, maybe each keyword will have like $5 spent here, $5 spent there. Cumulatively, I said that weird. Cumulatively, you have a lot of ad spend on the ad group, but they're all kind of working together. Maybe one keyword gets a sale, and then another one gets the sale, and so for the whole ad group or the whole campaign, your ACoS is sitting pretty good.
Right. So on one hand, in that research, these high ticket, low converting accounts, you want to rake up as many low cost CPCs as you can. So having a low cost automatic campaign running out there, generating as many sort of like shots on goal, where we can like have as many at bats. That's 2 sports analogies in one example, where you can just sort of take as many shots as possible. That's 3 sports. Basically,
maybe you could get the hole in one.
Yes. Basically, you just want as many entries into the auction for your products as possible. And then what will happen is you'll have thousands of different impressions from thousands of different things. And then you apply your RPSB. But even before we get to the RPSB, the reason why it's imperative to sort of do that is because you need as many different search term possibilities as possible. So if you think of, even the examples of what we just said, hey, let's get 1,000 converting terms, there's billions and billions of different terms that are being searched. The whole purpose is to go and find these things. And it really is like looking for, trying to strike oil, because when you hit one, the conversion revenue is so big. So having a low auto discovery is key. And then when things do convert, I like to do things a little bit differently when it's really high ticket. One, I don't immediately take it out and bid super aggressively on it. So just like we've been talking about, because the revenue per click on that may be $10,000, maybe $5,000. It's going to be so big that if I were to make a revenue-based bid on a particular keyword, what I might end up with is a bid of maybe $50, $70. And with a conversion rate of, 1%, I don't want to be spending $5,000. Because, imagine if you were to multiply that out by many different keywords,
right.
I can't be spending $5,000 on 100 different keywords. So what I normally do is I'll often take the thing that converts and actually almost like use it like planting a seed. I might take that and I might do, my exact phrase in broad, but I might keep the bids a little bit lower. I'll almost use it like I'm planting a seed and I want to see what else it can find that's close by. Right. So that'll give me even more shots on goal. But I'm sort of directing the traffic of where I want to get to. And generally, I would bid a little bit more aggressive if something does get 2 to 4 conversions or more, because then that has a proven track record. That's going to be converting, once every quarter reliably for me, and things like that are absolutely like gold for these large accounts.
Right, and especially if you're really trying to be money conscious with your ad spend. Sometimes when we advocate RPSB, we say anything that has a conversion, but there are sometimes where there's a search term that converted coincidentally, even though it wasn't relevant. The example we were just doing was someone's looking for like one medical device, and while they're shopping, they see another medical device that they realize they also need. Right. And so they converted coincidentally, but now trying to place your product on that search page every single time
with an aggressive bid,
is going to be difficult. So. To be safe, if you don't actually want to like manually, look at and affirm all of the keywords you're about to be adding, just take anything like Michael said with 2 to 4 conversions. I personally like taking anything with 2 or more. Once you're getting that set up, don't be discouraged if you're seeing a certain keyword with $100 of ad spend and not a conversion yet. I would always, compare it to account averages. So if that keyword, let's just say it had 100 clicks, hasn't converted yet. but you're averaging 10% conversion rate. Well, now it might be that's maybe when it's a good time to either really drop that bid down to extremely low bid or potentially pause the keyword.
Right. And, in terms of how applicable these strategies are, I feel like a lot of companies on Amazon have an aversion towards higher ticket items. But for a lot of these issues, right, they're going to be more expensive to make, lower conversion rates, all these different things. But I mean, we were just talking to a client that was making, all of their products up until this point were in the, $20 to $50 range. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, I'm building a $500 product. So they were sort of working their way up to sort of the value ladder for their market. So, I mean, these are strategies that they're going to need to rethink about, like, hey, I've been advertising $20 to $50 products for so long. Now I'm going to be selling a $500 product. It's, my individual order is going to be lower on it. There's going to be fewer conversions for it, but I need to have a different strategy if I want to meaningfully generate revenue for these higher ticket items. So this is definitely something that good Amazon marketers should definitely have on their radar about how to approach these high ticket items, because you don't want it to be a big surprise when, maybe a client writes in or someone on your team suggests having a higher ticket item to add to the inventory list.
Right. And final thing I would say from me is just please, if you have products that have a huge unit sales price and ones with a small unit sales price, keep them in separate ad groups.
Right.
Because the keywords, say this unit might sell for $1,000 and you're willing to bid like $10, $15 on it, but then you also have like a $20 product in that same ad group. Those keywords are placing ads for all of the products in that ad group. And so it's possible that your $12, $20 product might be bidding $10 on these keywords. So I never keep unit or products, even if they're variations of each other, like parent-child ASINs.
Right.
If they're different sales prices and wildly different, I always will put them in separate ad groups for that very reason. So just keep that in mind as well.
For sure. And that's our show. Normally we write an outro. We don't really have an outro for this show. What I can say, I was listening to a podcast on the way to work, and they were talking about how they prepared for their podcast. And they were like weighing the pros and cons of like, should you record longer episodes, like 30 minutes plus, or short ones? And they're like, oh, if you have 10 minutes to prepare, maybe you can do 30-minute plus episodes. And I just had to laugh because you and I prepare like for almost over an hour on a lot of these shows. So I just I just laughed at that. It was just like an observation on the podcast creation process.
Well, Mike, you've been in 3 countries for the last 2 weeks. Do you want to do a send up by saying goodbye in one of the languages? Like
sure.
Portuguese, Czech. What do you know?
Sure.
You know all 3 of them?
I literally don't know. Czech sounded so hard to say. I have no idea how to say anything in the language, so I apologize out there. If you are listening to the show and you speak any Czech, feel free to go to adbadger.com/voicemail and you can do the next. We'll play you saying goodbye. Thanks for listening on our next show. For now, I have to keep it in English. Goodbye. Thanks for listening.